Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I feel like I am a kid in a candy store today. This is Mollie Carmichael with Zonda Advisory. I am here with three of the smartest architects, I think, in the country, and we have so much great content for you today on designing new solutions to meet today's affordability, especially with all the challenges going on. So let's dive right in. Again, I am here with three of the greatest guys ever. Dewan, principal with Bassenian Lagoni. I've worked with him for years. Denton, principal of Woodley Architects, and of course, Garrett Hoskins with Robert Hidey. Again, you're going to be blown away with some of the new ideas that they have for you and super excited to share. Overall, the agenda, I'm going to do just a couple of updates for Zonda. I'll give a few facts, and then we're going to dive into a lot of new home design ideas. And then I'll just wrap up with some conclusions. If you didn't, if you're on the West Coast, grab a lunch because what we're going to end up doing, sorry for the document, we're going to end up being on for about an hour and a half. We have that much great content for you. So if not, Uber Eats, whatever you need to do, but it should be really awesome. Quick updates as on advisory. Obviously, we have people on the ground all over the country. Please reach out to us. We're here to help, whether it's simple market studies, master plans, you name it, market growth, all those things. Again, we have people all over the country here to help you. If you're not involved with Livable, if you're with a master plan or a builder, it's so easy. It's free to list, and it's one of the neatest new applications for listing. We have some great facts behind why Livable not only is successful, but will continue to be even more successful. And with that, we just recently acquired the U-Tour application and all that goes with that. It's a super cool tool. If you're not using this too, it just lets people enter your homes at their leisure. So, their time, their way. It's a great application if you're not using it today. Most of you are likely familiar with it. We also have market snapshots if you're trying to just stay on top of this crazy market today and what's changing and how fast it's changing and what's going on. You're going to want these market snapshots. We're also expanding into new markets throughout. I love the fact that we're now in Charleston, for example, Savannah, Myrtle Beach, you name it. So please look out for those if those are markets you're really interested in. I do tons of work in Richmond too, so it's so nice to have those. So does Dan Fulton's. So be sure to look for those. And then last but not least, we have a rental housing outlet. So for those of you who I call it the new shiny object, build for rent, single family for rent, whatever you want to call it today. If you're really looking for what's happening in that category, what the supply is, where it's at, all that stuff, this is a product for you. And I don't know how you do what you do without something like this. So with that, let's get started. So I'm just going to share a few facts with you. And the thing I always start with is people. It's all about them. So again, first understanding what they want. I spend a lot of time in this category and a lot of time with architects. Some of it we can truly quantify. And then we have the brains on this webinar today to really bring it to life. Right now, it's a difficult time. And 52% today believe now is a good time to buy a home. So it's more challenging. And that's why these three individuals are on with us today. Because consumers need more, I think, than price, and price is really challenged. So I always like to show this. It's a real reality for sure. But if we go back to just 2 years ago, September of 2021, at 2.78% interest rates, at $3,700 a month today, that same price point at $1 million is 65% more. So it's really a big deal. And if you were looking at that and you wanted to drive to that same monthly payment, you'll see it would require that home be at $605,000. That's almost half the price. So it's a really big deal. And it's why I think design is going to be so compelling on how to make that square footage better and more exciting to get people to move or potentially walk away from that 2.75% interest rate. We ask customers amongst 100 plus other questions. If you want help in this category, we can quantify what people are really willing to pay for today. But the thing I always underscore is home design, according to your consumers, is going to motivate them far more to buy today than even home price, despite what I just showed you. These are real up-to-date facts. So it is important to really focus on how can you move the needle. And I love these quotes. You guys have all heard them. but you can continue to do the same thing, but you're really not going to get much, you're not going to get different results. So please focus on how we can make change together. And then I also love the quote, despite the fact that I'm an analyst, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. So that's where I'm a big believer in both the art and the science here. And it's so important. So playing with price without invention, it just never ends well. A couple of great examples, Kodak. They invented digital photography, which I think is so interesting, but they didn't want to compete with themselves. And unfortunately put them out of business. So today, obviously, digital photography is everything. We all carry our phones, and my iPhone takes better pictures than my professional camera that's like $2,500, which is ridiculous. Blockbuster, of course, we all know what happened there. 8,000 stores closed, and you can stream everything. And I love the story of Apple. 2003, they almost lost everything because they were really just going for reproduction and mass production and price. And at the end of the day, 2011, obviously enters Steve Jobs at about 2003, and he invents a lot of new exciting things, including all of these great inventions, and it just changed the world for them. And so you can see the difference in what it truly means to your bottom line. My last great example, it isn't obviously Elon Musk himself, but when you really look at sort of Tesla back in the day, going to the late 1800s, early 1900s, he created actually the electric engine. And so I love his quote, the progressive development of a man is vitally dependent on invention. And so we're here to talk about new ideas, new invention, and how do we move the needle, like some of the new inventions that are moving the needle today. And again, new design is your number one opportunity to add value to your bottom line. And I think today's consumer really needs that emotional tug to sell in this market. So how do we get, sexy, cool, different, unique inventions today that your consumers are going to show up with? So with that, I'm going to turn it over. We're going to start first with Graham Denton with Woodley. Then we're going to actually go over to Stephen Dewan with Bassenian Lagoni. And then we're going to end with Garrett Hoskins with Robert Hidey Architects. So Graham, take it away.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks, Molly.
You bet. Over that remote to you too, just so you know.
Okay, perfect. So my name's Graham Denton. I'm a principal architect here at Woodley Architectural Group. I've worked with Mike Woodley for over 20 years. Here we have 3 offices across the U.S. and we do work all across the U.S. and even internationally. Everything from master planning to custom homes. So we do a wide range of work, but wanted to just start out with some small ideas, but ideas that really can apply to plans across the board. And one of them, and I think we'll see it a lot, but it's just rethinking spaces such as the office. We think gone are the days of those, big offices, leather recliner, pipe smoking offices. People don't use that anymore. They don't need that anymore. They just want a little space to work. And so we've been, putting these small little offices where we can, the offices that have glass, very impactful, but they're very usable spaces. And it's just starting to think about some spaces differently. And this is just a very prevalent one of those ideas. Another relatively small idea, but can make a big impact on plans is thinking about, dining spaces. For a long time, we needed to have formal dinings in every space or in every home. And while there's still a place for that, we're doing multi-million-dollar custom homes that did not have a formal dining space. People are seeing these kitchen islands as a very viable eating space, and then supplementing that with still an informal dining space really gives people those 2 places that they want to eat. They don't really need that formal space. So starting to rethink some of those plan forms that are just, we've been doing for a long time, but they're not really needed. And when you start looking at different spaces like that, it helps save room across plans and frees up space for other rooms, or helps us reduce square footage to help get that affordability down. But really, we think that innovation has got to start with the planning phase, because the planning is going to drive your footprint. It's going to drive basically how the house works. And so we need to make sure that we're efficient there. So just a couple of quick little studies. Here's like a conventional 50 by 90 lot. So obviously, one home per lot. Well, you could take a look at that and, oh, there we go. Take a look at that a couple of different ways. So here on the left, we're basically in the space that we had 3 lots before, we're getting 6 homes, and they're off of a little motor court. Or, we could even go more dense than that. And in the space that we had 3 homes before, we've got 9 homes. So doubling our density and tripling our density all in the same space. Similarly for alley loaded homes, you've got a lot of paving, a lot of wasted space. So similar situation, we can take that, and where we had 2 homes before, we could do 4 homes and again do a motor court, or maybe we pair the homes in the back, create a duet, and get 6 homes on the same space. So really, we need to start thinking differently about exactly how we can plan these areas. But the bottom line is, these are conventional lots, but not every project is conventional. So we, time and time again, I think it goes with planning as well as the actual floor plans themselves. There truly is no one size fits all solution. So whenever we approach a project, we always like to, this is just something that we had put together for a project where we were brainstorming, trying to come up with different ideas. These are all 2-story prototypes, but we have to know for a project, do you have to have driveways? What kind of garage configurations? And parking is one of those things it's very fluid today. Some cities are definitely relaxing those parking requirements, but even if the city's relaxing parking requirements, there's still definitely a desire for the buyer to have those parking spaces, whether they're for storage or for cars, and those driveways are also important. So those are all big things. Backyards. We find that backyards are very important, even if it's a small backyard. So many people have pets, and just having a spot for that pet is so important. It doesn't have to be a huge yard, but providing a rear yard is super important. And that's why we really gravitate also towards front-loaded prototypes, because it does provide a rear yard. And so in these examples, we're achieving up to, with these paired homes, we're looking at 11, 12 DU per acre in a paired home. And again, these are all 2-story prototypes, but sometimes you even need more than that. And so in that case, we need to start looking at 3-story product. And so this is an example of an alley loaded product that, the site was already planned with alley loaded homes. And so we had to stick with that without doing a complete redo on the project. But we came up with a 3-story prototype that has been very successful. And obviously, since the living is now on the 2nd floor, whenever you provide in a 3-story product, you want to provide that living space on the 2nd floor, because that's where your living spaces are. But this has been a very successful product, and 12 to 15 DUs per acre. And on the 1st floor, basically it's a 2-car garage, and then a space, a flex space, whether that's a bedroom or an office or something like that. But like I said, we prefer to really gravitate towards a front-loaded product, because then we can get that rear yard that's so important. So this is another product that's really, basically it can vary, but typically we would plan this at like a 40 by 50 lot. So a 3-story product, but it has driveways as well as 2-car garages. Again, that 1st floor has a flex space, bedroom, office, something like that. And then the living is all on the 2nd floor. And so we always want to provide these balconies. You can put your grill out there. It gives you a place to live, but you still have that rear yard. It's small, but it gives your pet somewhere to go, and it just really provides that amenity for a buyer. So you can see here's just kind of a typical floor plan for that 1st floor, just to show what's on that 1st floor. And yes, the rear yard is very small, but it is usable. And really the important thing to know is that the magic for density, and it's not really magic, but really the key driving factor is whatever touches the ground, right? So the more that we can reduce these footprints, the more creative we can get with the footprint, the more dense that we can get on the site. But even though it's a compact footprint, these second floors, because they're wide open, they live great. This product, again, has been very successful. And, you know, we've got similar products in markets all over the US. And every time we do this, it's been a really successful product for us. But, oh, and, you know, we're getting 11 to 14 DU per acre on a detached project or a product. And I mean, we can get easily 2,500 square feet on this product, and sometimes even higher if we want to do roof decks and mezzanines and that kind of thing. But sometimes that's still not enough, right? So now we want to start looking a little bit at more attached solutions, but starting out with some duplexes, because duplexes, you know, some people aren't comfortable going more at, you know, with row towns or something like that. So duplexes help us get that next step. Now this is, even though it's 11 DU per acre, this is back to a 2-story product. So not as dense as the 40 by 50 lots, but again, maybe you're in a market that 3-story product does not work. So for a 2-story product, we found that these duets work very well. We wouldn't have to jog the shared wall, but in this case, it really helped us. We helped us get a bedroom down. So again, this is a relatively typical duplex scenario, but again, we're creating these backyards, and so we like to call these as like backyard duets or backyard townhomes, because you are able to provide that backyard for buyers. Front load. Typically, we would do these without a driveway just to help density, but you can do them with a driveway as well. So I wanted to just show this as a example project that we had done. And we are constantly, especially lately, getting what we would call these underutilized sites. And most of them are offices that are very underutilized. As we know, there's still a lot of people, and definitely that movement where a lot of people are working from home or a hybrid approach. And so we've got a number of projects just going right now that are large office buildings that are completely empty or very underutilized. So looking at redeveloping now those with housing. This is in a very suburban area, and right now it's a 1-story office building with a bunch of parking around it. And so we took a look at plotting these duplexes and triplexes. Obviously, it could be all duplexes. It would probably affect the density a little bit, but these are the backyard prototypes. So we're providing backyards for all the units. And you can see we're surrounded by like probably a 4 DU per acre product, a single family, you know, very large home product. But by, you know, we feel like this project or product works very well. It integrates very well, and we're getting 11 DUs per acre. So just being able to be flexible, and these products were really designed for this site, as far as, you know, getting the width to work and the depth to work. So we always approach it with an idea, but then usually we'll end up designing product exactly for the site to fit right in. So this is just an elevation, as you can see, you know, even though they are duets and triplexes, overall we can make them look like the big homes, have them blend in exactly to the aesthetic that's there in the existing neighborhood. So beyond that, even if we needed to get a little more dense, you know, here's a triplex, but it could easily be a duet configuration. And in the duet configuration, we're looking at a 15 DU per acre. So this is similar. And again, this is a 3-story product. So this is very similar to the 40 by 50 lots, except it's a little more compact. And by doing them in a duet or a triplex configuration, we're able to get them a little more dense. So you can really start pushing density with these. And again, small space downstairs, minimizing that ground floor footprint. And then on the second floor, have a little plan just showing how you get that wide open living space. And we always want to provide that balcony for some outdoor living on that main living floor. Here's an elevation that goes with that. You know, they can be very simple. The aesthetic can really be anything, depending on where you are. But this has been another successful prototype for us. So beyond that, 3-story towns. You know, I think everybody is familiar and understands how a 3-story conventional townhome works. We can get over 20 DU per acre, depending on the square footage and the footprint on those. But, you know, sometimes we need even more than that. And so as far as looking at some other attached prototypes, and we tend to gravitate towards the row town, but looking at the row town in some different ways. So this was a project that we did in Anaheim, and it was an infill, and again, an underutilized site. It was, you know, some rundown gas stations and motels and that kind of thing. And so the city was looking to revitalize it a little bit. And so we looked at this project, and we've got 3 different product types on this site. We've got in the purple are some live work flats, and then we've got in the red some tandem towns, and then the yellow are what we call carriage towns or back-to-back towns. And we can take a look at each one of those. Starting out with the flats. Now these are going to be the most dense and unfortunately the most expensive. These probably directs are, you know, upwards of 200 a square foot. But what this lets us do is it does have some common area. And so a lot of cities are requesting some common area retail, some common area amenities. And so this is a great way to solve that because it builds in some common area space on those first floors. Everybody still gets a garage, but they do come to a common for elevator served, and then they would come up to their flat. And typically we will do these as 4 stories, so we can do standard wood frame construction, keep the cost down. These are much more affordable than like a podium or something like that because we can do all wood frame construction. And so we would do 3 levels of flats above the garages. And depending on the number of units, you know, anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 flats per floor. So again, this is out of all the products that we're showing here today, definitely the most expensive, but we're able to get a density of almost 30 DU per acre. And it gives us the ability to do some of that common area on the first floor that the cities are really desiring. Now on this project, we actually are turning these into amenities for the community. So there'll be like gyms and sales office and that kind of thing. But from the street, it really is giving the city that retail look that they want. So this is just a rendering of that project. But I want to look back at the other townhome types that we had on this site. And so this is what we would call like a tandem townhome. And so still a traditional townhome layout in the sense that you have light from 2 sides, even on the interior units, but we're getting them very narrow. And so the footprint is based on a tandem garage, but upstairs, you know, we're looking at these living spaces differently and really trying to be efficient with the layouts, and these actually feel great. And so like this unit here, this most narrow unit, at the narrow part at this kitchen here, I mean, we're at 11 feet wide. Now we do jog it out to get a little more room at the living space. We wouldn't necessarily have to do that, but you know, this galley kitchen format and the way we've got the stairs arranged, the 11-foot width works great and it feels good. We're really able to utilize that light from both sides. And again, we're providing those decks on the living floor, which is so important. Here's an elevation. This is actually in Atlanta, but you know, we've done these all over. Here's another one in San Diego. So the aesthetic can be very designed to match the location, but the prototype in itself has been very successful for us, and it's really helped us get some good densities. So the other one that we'll talk about, maybe.
Are you able to go, Graham?
I am not.
I got you.
Oh, there we go. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is the last one we'll talk about as far as that site. And these are what we call carriage townhomes or back-to-backs. So you can see that on the first floor, really this is about as maximized as far as the footprint as you can get. We have a two-car garage and then a stair up to the second floor. And here we'll even mix in some one-car garages where it works with parking requirements and city requirements. And even though this one-car garage is going to create a small little unit, you know, it sometimes gives a really attainable price point for someone to be able to buy a unit that otherwise they would not be able to buy. And then in the building configurations, we can either arrange them in a single row, similar to a townhome, a very compact townhome unit, or we can arrange them, we call them back-to-backs. And so these really, I mean, the density we can get on these is pretty great. You know, again, 25 plus DUs per acre, all with wood frame construction. And what happens though is you're essentially putting your front doors on the same side as your garages. So we're creating these lanes that, you know, sometimes cities struggle with them because they're almost like alleys, but we've also had some really interesting, you know, approaches to that. So on this particular project, oh, and here's the elevation. You can see we've got front doors on the same side as the garage doors, but you know, we're not treating it like an alley. We've got balconies. There's a lot of life on these little lanes. And so on this particular project, we worked with the landscape architect, and all of these lanes, these motor courts are enhanced in different ways. So in this one, we've got even a pickleball court built in. Here's a 4-square area. And the only people that are using these lanes are the people that live in these units. So they are actually a really safe place for kids to be out there on their bikes and trikes, and gives them a hard surface to play. Certainly much safer than being on a normal street or a normal alley, because these are so private and you know, really great just amenity spaces. So instead of thinking about these as lanes, we're really thinking about these as amenity outdoor spaces as well. So one last thing, and again, this really goes back to that whole, there are no one-size-fits-all solutions, because we like to take a look at every site and really figure out what product works best to get the density we need, to get the program we need with the actual floor plans. And this is a project we did in San Diego, and it has ocean views. And so we needed to hit a certain density, but at the same time, we wanted to make sure that we could maximize views. And so it's similar to a back-to-back configuration, but what we did was we opened up the internal. Instead of having the units completely back-to-back, we created these green spaces between the units. So we have the drive lanes and then the green spaces. And so what that let us do is every unit can now get a view through these view corridors to the ocean. So you can see here, we stagger the buildings and create these living spaces on each floor, but they all have views, and we carefully step back the buildings to be able to get views for all of these units. So taking a look at the footprints, they are similar to the back-to-back configuration, but tailored specifically for this site. And here's a photo of that green court, but this was a super successful project. It sold really, really well. But just another way to think about a site and to really make sure that you're designing for a site and the product not only hits the, you know, the constraints of the site, but also gives you what you need as far as square footage and program and that kind of thing. So with that, that is our last slide. So I will let you take it back, Molly.
Graham, that was awesome. I'm going to do just a real quick group of notes here from Graham's presentation takeaways. So office, the 5x7 space that he showed, you're going to get paid the same as a 10x10, and the 80% want that additional office and will pay additional for that office too. The dining room, I do want to state 50% still want one formal space. So whether it's the dining room or the living room, I wouldn't eliminate it all together, but 50% still want one formal space depending on how they use it. On the cluster, hold the yards, but I will say this too, auto courts will achieve a higher price than a garden court. So be aware of that. But it does depend on how great those garden courts are. So I've seen people say, oh, the garden does get more. Well, yeah, if you've got like these huge, massive green spaces. But beware of that. Alleys, 10% more in cost, but people will pay 10% less in price. And that's about the backyard. Driveways, he showed that great cantilever on the driveway. One, it adds so much to the architecture to be able to have that driveway. And you'll get about 10 to 15,000 more for each drive that you provide. So huge. And again, cantilevers really help soften when you pull it to the auto port versus to the garden. You're going to see more of that. A duplex can be fee simple. It eliminates the HOA, and this could equate to about 20,000 in price. 9 to 12 to the acre with ground floor level living is huge, and you can get up to 15 to the acre and greater with 3-story. Backyard first. So you're going to get about 20,000 to have a private backyard, and part of it is about privacy. Cover the roof where you can if you're going to push that backyard up to the deck. It adds character. It lives better. It's better for warranty issues. The bedroom down 3-story product. It's a great live work today. It's getting more and more popular because people want that office at home. The mansion concept, love that. It blends so nicely with suburban and it gets you that density. When you do go vertical though, if you noticed in the 2 samples he showed, I loved the simple forms with just a little bit of texture. The white and wood example is a great example of that. Sometimes it can get to, it's not a word, but it gets kind of yucky if you have too much stuff. Like this picture he has is great. Garage solutions are shifting for sure while we're trying to meet affordability. So the tandems, we're seeing 1-car garages, we're seeing portico shares. You'll see more clever solutions on that. But Graham said this when we were practicing. It's all about what is the ground and how you play with that space. So even making use of the alleys with the pickle court, awesome. Loved that. Be clever with your side yard spaces. All of it should be programmed for entertainment where you can, or just even plain privacy. And last but not least, and I love this point, views are free. So if you can maximize the number of homes that have views, it's free money. So that's so important in your site planning. So great job, Graham. And we are going to go on and welcome Stephen Dewan, one of my favorite architects out there. I'm going to just turn it right over to you, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Hi, Molly, and welcome everybody, and thank you for attending today. I'm Stephen Dewan. I'm a senior principal here at Bassenian Lagoni Architects, and many of you know us, but Molly, can you turn over?
Let me turn that over to that's my
there we go. We are located in Orange County and work nationally and internationally, and you can certainly read about us here. But I think that the 2 points I would like to highlight are the depth of experience of our planners and our designers, and then secondly, how each person that works here always seeks solutions that are both innovative and marketable. And for us, that combination is really the driving force behind what we do. We certainly love what we do and have a lot of fun with it. Here we go. But I want to show and share some ideas. We're going to present a series of 5 topics that will help you think about design a little differently. Those ideas can translate to your product types and your regions. They may be specific to where they were designed, but the ideas, the way I'm going to share it, is there's a translation there. And whether we're saying, well, you use less of a side yard or a short apron, you can always take that into account. But it's a starting point, and it does help understand how we've achieved these small products and what some of the trade-offs are with them. So the first example I'm showing was really born out of how do you create an attached density by going detached. So these are coming in at 16 just over 16 homes per acre, and you have ground level living. So these are 2-story homes. So what were some of those trade-offs? Well, we've done interlocking and with reciprocal use easements on the side yard. So your home is typically going to live to one side. We're doing covered and uncovered parking. So 1-car garages and an assigned 1-car space. We've got front door character that works off of paseos, works off of the street. So you're getting a lot of character and a good sense of community with that. We also have no rear yard. So the yard here is really, there's a small rear yard, but it's more like a side yard. Your rear yard is really off the side. It's what we refer to more as a pocket lot, but it's just the right size. It's very livable, and it really is what makes these homes work. Love to describe this as the beautiful box. Somebody could also say the attractive cottage, but I like the word the beautiful box. It's simple and it's attractive. You can see basically one roof truss, and it's just the key elements of the less is more approach to this is it's just got enough of the siding. It's on the corner, so it wraps the home. It gives the home character. There's an entry awning to designate the front door. And then the window patterning, whether it's glass put into the corners or the series of glass, really help create the character and bring in a lot of light, which is very important in a small home. You need to do a few more windows because adding those windows and adding that connectivity to the outdoors will really help to make a small home feel a little larger. So this is our plan 1. It's the center slot plan. And you can see that one of the trade-offs here is the 1-car garage and the full apron. The other trade-off, as I described earlier, is the side yard. You're living to one side, so you're doubling up on the side yard on one side, in this case, 11 feet, or the width of a parking space and a little extra on the edges. But it's just enough space as the house lives. It's great room living. You can see it 20 feet, just enough space to live. The right connectivity to the outside, the visual connectivity. It's got 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a loft. But it's really a great starter home. I mean, this is under 1,100 square feet. And as I said, hitting a density of just over 16 units an acre. From the photograph, you can see some of the points I was talking about earlier. You've got that visual connection out to the side yard. You've got lots of light coming in from both sides here in the photograph. And it just makes the space very livable. It's just enough space. I mean, between the kitchen and the dining, or the kitchen and the great room, you're about 20 feet. So about 10 and 10 here with the dining off to the left in the photograph. But for a starter home, it furnishes well. It's just the right amount of space. It's kind of like the mama bear, papa bear, baby bear thing. And just the yard here, we talked about that. You can bring your dining room table out at about 11 feet. It's very usable. You get a lot of light. And through the design process here with the reciprocal use easements and the side yards, you have to be very sensitive to window placement, overlooking your neighbor and all of that. And certainly that was taken into consideration as this was designed. The plan 2 lives to the side yard, or lives to the street and the paseo, so it's got a lot of front door character and street presence. And again, it's just the right amount of material, in this case turning the corner, and the right balance of forms to give it some very good contemporary character. And so the plan lays out a little differently. The prior plan, you came up from the garage side. In this case, your line of sight as you enter the home is at the entry, past the kitchen, living, and then out to the side yard. And what that does is it gives you an expansive view, making the pieces feel larger and really reinforcing that indoor-outdoor connectivity. In some cases, based on how the module worked for this, and if you saw that in the beginning slide, this can expand to a standard 2-car garage versus the 1-car with the assigned outdoor space. And again, with that small home, making it feel larger. There's that line of sight. So past the kitchen, the family room, and out to the side yard, and good light on the second wall really just helps open these little plans up. And then going outside again, demonstrated more of a sitting area, the ability to have usable space, privacy, and just that indoor-outdoor connectivity. Naturally, when we go with these smaller yards in this community, one of the things you're going to want to do is provide for a larger space for the community. And in this case, it was a 1 acre rec center that has great indoor outdoor spaces for everybody to use. It's overflow space if you think about it when you're entertaining at home and you want to take advantage of something a little different outside. It's got space for play areas for children and gathering spaces for everybody in the community. Hidden spaces. Well, what do we mean by that? It's how do you find opportunity, let's say within your own plan. So we're going to demonstrate a few plans that grabbed some opportunities and made them something more than what they were. So in this case, this is a 3-story detached row town. By creating a study off of the entry downstairs, by allowing good light into that space, and by having it connect to the outdoors, that little space as a yard for your pet or for a little barbecue, what we've done is created a private space that by the nature of its location is separate. So for that at-home work situation, you can come down from your main living level at the 2nd floor, and you really can get away down in this little entry study. Here's another example. It's really a found work area behind the kitchen. And rather than doing a larger kitchen, dining, living, if you borrow a little bit of that space, all of a sudden, we've really got a very nice tech center off of a walk-in pantry. As you can see in plan and in the photograph, you've got good light coming in, and it really keeps the needs of your buyers at the forefront. It really gives them another piece within a home that may not have it. Somebody may opt to do just a bigger plan and find that space elsewhere. But in this case, it's just an additional couple of feet that really help expand the usability of the plan. Again, finding space, it doesn't need to be closed off. You can see the highlighted area. We've added, again, a window for light, and it really helps expand the spaces we've talked about. But you can imagine this little place as a little workspace, a place for your pets, or just a little getaway. Perhaps you throw a beanbag into the corner and you just kind of, lay on the floor and do what you need to do to get away. This is an example of found space by filling in the volume at the entry. When we designed these little homes, we thought, whoa, wouldn't it be great to have volume at the entry and make the home feel larger? But what we realized as we were in framing walk was that perhaps that linen area and the landing area was too small, and the value of the volume wasn't really there. So by grabbing that additional 10 feet of length, and it's about 4.5, 5 feet wide, all of a sudden, we've got an area that can be a study or an exercise space, but it really, once filled in, it was very impressive. And we all said, we should have done this in the beginning, but we all thought that the volume would have been the keynote. But no, it's really the floor area, the usable space for your buyers that they can take advantage of to adapt to their lifestyles. Again, showing here the window patterning, lots of light, lots of connectivity, and it really lightens up and opens up the home. With a little extra space at a loft, all of a sudden now, we've got a kid's space that you can maximize the livability for the family. So if you've got guests over downstairs, you can create this area where the children are up in their own little area having fun. They're separate. but can be very functional just by adding a little more dimension into that space. How about rethinking how we do bedrooms? And this is the Livable Concept home by Zonda, and this is the shameless plug, but it's a wonderful home that we had the opportunity to work on with Zonda. But what we're trying to demonstrate here is that perhaps you remove the closet walls. What that does then is it opens up the opportunities for this room in particular to flex as a bedroom. And by becoming a bedroom, you can put an armoire or some closets, pre-manufactured closets in there. Or as a den, you would fill that space with a desk or a bookshelf. But by removing that wall, by removing the cost of those items, it allows the buyer to utilize and fill in that space as they deem what's important to do. I mean, think about it. If you've been to Europe, the homes are small, the bedrooms are small, and you very rarely see built-in closets. They utilize the space as best accordingly to their lifestyle. And then finally, under this topic of hidden spaces, it was the side yard. And again, it's utilizing something that may have been a throwaway if you have 2, 3, or 4, or 5 foot side yards that really aren't usable. But if you modify the way the site plan and the way the home sits on the site, all of a sudden you've found a way now to get livable outdoor space, to maximize the usage of that space while creating a smaller footprint and giving you better density. The next point we're going to go over is rethinking the garage. And we were challenged with this while working with Zonda on the livable home. And everybody was throwing out ideas on how they use their garage. It was storage. It was an exercise space. When the garages are forward, it was the way that you engaged your neighbor. Maybe you've got a ping pong table in there or a pool table. And we thought, all right, how do we do this a little differently? How do we make the garage more than it is? How do we rethink it? So here's the front elevation. You can see there's 2 single bay garages to the left. They both have garage doors. The left garage is actually a little larger than the right garage because you're going to, get your cars in there. It's got a high ceiling to get perhaps a car lift in there and the ability to have more storage. But what's really key here is the right garage. And as we look at it in plan, what you'll notice is that it's placed next to the courtyard. It's opened up to the courtyard. And what that does is it expands the space's functionality. It expands the opportunities to engage with, as you open up the garage door on that garage, to engage at a public sense. And then it engages as well with the interior courtyard, which we'll call semi-private. It's still at the front of the house. But all of a sudden now, that garage can be utilized in a much different manner than originally intended if it was just closed off and you're opening a door. So now it's engaging to the front, to the side, and ultimately into the house. Along with that, it's really the choice of materials and how you finish off that helps to expand that space. And it's a matter of extending the floor material up and through, and then perhaps wall materials as well. So the garage now becomes this indoor-outdoor space that can function. You can certainly park a car in there all day long, but it can also function in a different manner with how the home lives and the expansion of that home physically and visually. So going back to rethinking the garage, I know we're talking a lot about density today and, affordability and all that, but placing the garage off of, in this case, the auto court, what that does is it allows for front door character. And these homes come in just under 13 units to the acre. But you can see the character that you get from the street scene and how engaging that is, and what a wonderful place that is to live. So rethinking the garage by creating different garage configurations and the way they engage, whether it's a 2-car or a tandem, the way they engage the home, and you can see some of the homes wrapped back around the garage. Some of the living space of the home is just forward of the garage, or in this case, the tandem garage has the living space off to the side. It ultimately creates a very, not only the street scene that you saw, but you can see in plan and livability that different interlocking of pieces creates a series of different configurations and different lifestyles ultimately for your buyers and what they would love to live in. I know when we was walking the narrow home with my daughter, and in plan, we're like, okay, let's check this out. Let's see how this feels. But in fact, it was the most unique and exciting because of the amount of glazing off to the side yard and the sight lines that connected you. And it's like, wow, this is a really cool little plan. So sometimes what you expect and what comes out of that expectation can be very, very different.
These homes are so cute too. Just, I had to throw that in. They are so cute in person.
Thank you, Molly. The next point is duplex product and dense actually product over 15 units to the acre. But how do you make attached live like single family? That's always the key. So one of the reasons we've shown this photograph is the fact, okay, we've got a common aesthetic here, but by creating individual character, by having the different materials work differently, each of the homes now feels separate and your own. And that's one of the things dealing with duplexes or density is how do you bring that character to that homeowner and what's their home? The other thing at being at 15 units to the acre is you've got to get all the pieces right sized. And in this case, just enough room, the proper furnishing for the great room, for the kitchen, dining, and the living space, and then just enough yard off of the rear in that little pocket lot configuration that I talked about. So it's very livable. You've got two bedrooms with a loft, or up to 3 bedrooms in this product range. But as we'll see from the photographs, is that you get a good view across the room. We've talked about that a lot, about open space, light, air, windows and such. And they just really feel much more like a single family than you would expect out of a duplex. I'm going to jump back real quick. One of the things I also wanted to show is there's a unique garage configuration here where we opened up one of the garages more as a carport. It gave a different feel to the way the plan lives, the different experience that was actually demonstrated with the ping pong table. Here we go with ping pong again, with the ping pong table out there. But all of a sudden that parking space can become an outdoor room, covered outdoor room to the front to engage your neighborhood and your little community off of the stub street here. And then there's the rear yard. And I talked about just right sizing, just enough room to furnish, just enough room to get some good plant material, some hard surface, have the little barbecue, and just have a very nice outdoor living space. Now coming up to 19 units to the acre. And what's unique about this concept, as we look at the floor plan, if you were just to look at the garage plan at the entry level, you'd think, okay, well, we're going to do 2 very narrow homes above this. They're going to sit directly over those garages. But what if you think about what you're doing here a little differently? And rather than having them side by side, what if they go front to back? And all of a sudden now, what you're seeing is 2 homes that have light on 3 sides. They have very good width and good depth at the main living level and the other levels as well. But all of a sudden now you flip that idea of a narrow home to a wider home. And what that affords you, as I said, is the light on 3 sides. But again, look how large this space feels and reads. It's not 11, 12, 13, 14, or 15 feet wide. It's the full 21 plus feet wide. And we even did the concept here where we added in a standard 2-car. So we mixed a standard 2-car and a 2-car tandem. And what that afforded beyond the first building configuration was now both pieces have living space downstairs. So you've got that little getaway space. One can become a bedroom with an optional bathroom. But all of a sudden now you've created just a different lifestyle, a different floor plan within a very similar module. And again, look how much light, look at the view opportunities, that light in the through the configuration of the home. So rethinking the orientation of how your pieces sit together can create something much more unique and different in the marketplace. And then naturally the outdoor space, the right dimension, you know, anything above 5 is going to give you just that little bit more livability on a deck. And the opportunity, again, you want to, you know, create communities that you're able to engage with your neighbors, still have some privacy, but that's what these second floor decks do. The next point we'd like to discuss is designing with dignity, and certainly density, if done wrong, can not be very dignified, but if done right, what you really have to think about is placemaking. And in doing so, the planners, the architects, as we do here, they really has to go hand in hand to create these communities. And you've seen some of the homes here prior, but this is the overall community of Parkside. And it ranges from about 12.5 to 17 DUA. So again, this was originally planned for attached row towns, and we were challenged by our client and ultimately worked with the city very closely on coming up with ideas on how to detach the homes and create a very livable, a very dignified community. There are, you can see here, it's very easily to see that there are paseos that connect horizontally and vertically throughout the community. So that you've got that good, strong pedestrian connectivity. There is front door character at any road you're on. You have front doors on sides, fronts, in some cases backs, and the only time you see garages when you go down these little 4-unit stubs. So it is a very pedestrian oriented, very pedestrian friendly, very engaging community. And when the new home company built this, they took down most of the lots at one time, and it was amazing seeing it go up. But what's really nice about that is you quickly realized, did these concepts, did these ideas work? And they certainly did. And it's a wonderful experience. But that front door character, the paseos, and then ultimately we created little villages, the way we plotted it, the way the homes were grouped, and ultimately about how the elevations were plotting, created small little villages versus an ABC type of community. So that's something to think about, is rethink how you're plotting, how you're grouping homes, and what do you want to try to get out of a community. Whoop. Mollie. There we go. In this case, how do you do a townhouse product at 17 units an acre? And how do you do it? And how is it done differently? And how is it done, you know, to create a nice, dignified, a very nice place to live? Because that's ultimately what we're doing. They're not just homes. These are communities that we're designing for people. And if I can go to the next, so we have the elevation there. And if we go to the next, what we're seeing here is this is all townhomes, but there's a uniqueness about the townhomes. They're coming in different shapes and forms. They're being designed for different locations. So you have your end units, and your end units engage the streets, the walkable portions of the site, and then the green belts. So in those end units, all of a sudden, we engaged and had a little more volume because there was a maximum amount of footage we could put in the house. We said, well, let's capture that space so you get something that much more special out of those end units. You have your standard towns like the Plan 2s in the middle and the Plans 3. And then you have a very unique wider town that has a primary bedroom downstairs. But what's really noticeable, and you're looking at the footages, we're at 707 to 1619. So we've got a series of different plan types that are similar. In fact, that they're row towns, but they're diverse in their location and their footages and how they live. But what's really unique is that plan one, and you can see the little garage, the one-car garage, and the stair off the back. And what that turned into, Molly, if you can.
One thing I want to point out on this one too, Stephen, is this plotted at 22 to the acre. And I want to point out there's 2 master down plans, which is never heard of, and they all have living on the first level. So sorry. Yep, keep going.
We go. So what was offered here, and this little 700 square foot plan created all the buzz. Everybody wanted to buy it. It was the fastest selling plan in Orange County as it was available, but they did go fast. But what you could do is you could get a home in Orange County for $700,000. And at that point in time, that was unheard of. But again, just the idea of bringing something into your product that's a little different, that can create that buzz, will get you the traffic, get you the interest in your project. And yes, not everybody's going to buy that, but if they heard about it and they came, then all of a sudden they can get a little more excited about the other plans as well. So it's just trying to throw a twist, be a little different, give uniqueness to your product, get excited. You can hear the way I talk. We love what we do here. We love the industry, our clients, and the challenges that being innovative and being marketable brings to us. Molly, to the last.
Real quickly too on this one, this was sold as the potential of having multi-gen too, by the way. So don't think you can't do multi-gen on attached. And I thought this was such an interesting play, and it really was a price leader. It got people out to this community that just didn't think they could afford to live in Orange County. It was so cute. But I also want to point out that the original intent was to offer multi-gen.
And here's a shot of that unit. It's got its own little private deck. You see the bedroom through the door, and then the kitchen's behind. But again, it furnishes. It's just enough space, and it just is something a little different. So it's a little different twist. So I hope all the ideas that we've shared, you can just take those ideas and apply them. You can apply them to new product, but you can also rethink the existing product you have and integrate some of these ideas to make something new out of something that you have that is probably works well, or should work well, but now you're updating it and bringing a twist to it. So it's not only trying to find something brand new and fresh and what's the hottest thing in the marketplace. Sometimes it's just taking something that you have and you improve upon it through some of the ideas that we've just shared with you. So thank you.
This was so awesome. I'm going to do some really high level takeaways once again. There's so much great stuff here. But so high level, so 16 to the acre with ground level living, single family detached with parking, with a drive and a yard, huge. And part of it's just being creative about the entries. And again, how, what spaces are touching the ground. Small spaces can be super cozy with the right relationship to the outdoor space. And that's such a huge part of, I think, what Stephen and his team did. But also the volume choices, right? It's really inexpensive to cover volume, but volume can mean a lot, particularly when you consider the number of single households that are growing out there. But still, if not, the volume versus tech space, the volume versus the loft space, the space over the dining room, kind of same thing. Giving them that flexibility to choose, I think, is huge. I even loved the idea of the master closet in the concept home or another office. I can't tell you how many people I did Zoom calls with during COVID that converted, one of their closets into another office. The other sort of, it could have been a pantry space, but it could be a dog room. It could be storage. It could be an office. It could be a Peloton room, you name it. I love it's just that room empty without being furnished, no shelves, nothing, just empty. Let them call it their personality space. The side yard for entertainment, it's so huge. You can use that side yard for entertainment. It could be outdoor connections. It could be your buffet. It could be your outdoor bar area. I saw a builder do sliding glass doors to their 5-foot side yard, and they merchandised it as this really cool outdoor bar. It was awesome. So use the side yard for sure. 10 to 50% more than attached is your premium if you can get to densities like 15 to the acre that Stephen showed you. So why would you ever do attached if you didn't have to? Sometimes I like it for placemaking, but again, some really awesome solutions here. Simple forms are huge aesthetically, both aesthetically and financially. Color and texture can really go a long way. The blending of the auto court and the marriage to the street, I think really works in that, 13 to the acre product he showed at Nuvo. Think organization and let flexibility and technology play a part in this. If you're in a market that's like $300 a square foot, think about what that buys you if you can flex a dining room and an office with some wowie kind of ideas. I know wowie is not a word, but you know what I mean. The duplex, obviously, I loved the flexibility of the back-to-back version, not just the side-by-side. It gives you kind of that wider feel and some super neat spaces there. And then outdoor spaces, I love, Steven said this in a couple of different statements, but for outdoor spaces, think privacy and engagement and front door character. So those are 3 key characteristics that I think you want there. And then don't forget that last townhome. If you didn't think you could do 22 to the acre and get 2 master downs, the third one has a bedroom down and a multi-generational unit, well, you're wrong. Bassenian and Lagoni did it, and it is one of the neatest townhome products, all true story. So super great job, Stephen. Really appreciate it. And now I'm going to turn it over to Garrett Hoskins. Garrett, do you want me to just let you share? Do you want to take it from there?
Yes, please.
Okay, take it away. You should be able to just share. Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Garrett, welcome.
So I'm starting out.
Our last
Go
one,
ahead.
I just wanted to throw out there. I love Garrett. Robert Hidey and Associates and architects. They're so creative with space and design, and hang in there with us. We've got about 30 minutes left, and they've got fantastic ideas too. Take it away, Garrett.
Thank you, Molly, and thank you everyone for listening. My name's Garrett Hoskins. I am with Robert Hidey Architects. I am going to run through this presentation pretty quickly here. So if there's any big questions, please send them to Molly, or you can reach out to me personally at Robert Hidey Architects. I'm always available. So where we started, or where I started to put together this presentation, was looking at Molly's questions that she wanted answered. And as I got to the last question, I saw, where do we see ourselves in 25, 50 years? Well, I Googled it, 25 years from now, in 2050, we will be at 100 million more people. And at the rate they're letting people in through the southern border, we'll probably be way past 100 million. And so what does that mean to us? And more now than ever, I find myself in other states doing master plan communities. And right now I'm in Dallas. And what I've noticed about the master plans is that they're all subdivided with conventional lot sizes, 40s, 50s, and 60 wide lots. And there's not much variety. They may do an alley load. My screen's, am I sharing screen?
Yes, you are.
Okay, they may do a alley load product, but it is not going to be, it's just a necklace around the rest of the conventional lots. And so if you look at some of our master plan communities that we've been doing in California, for the past 25 years, I think California has felt that surge in growth. And so we've had to adapt to smaller lot living and creating a lot of these solutions that the previous 2 architects have shared of what can we do with less? And what are we willing to sacrifice and live without? And so our master plans are more on intriguing product. And you'll still see some conventional lots at the periphery of the master plan. Here at Essentia, where we prototyped all the product at Essentia, and it was all about how do we gain segmentation from your first-time buyers to an older generation trying to downsize and everything in between. And we were forced to create different types of products and different product segments. And I think that the rest of the nation is going to start to go from these conventional lots to what California has experienced in the last 25 years. And so I'm starting small. This is a product, a single family detached product that yields 9 DU an acre. And I'm going to just keep climbing. We're doing single family 2-story product that's at 11 DU an acre. two-story product detached at 14 DU an acre, 14.5 DU an acre. And we max out at our single family homes at 22 units an acre, and that's 3-story stacked up. And what we deal with a lot in California as well is that we're taking to other states is that we don't have big master plan communities as much, and we're forced to be infill sites. And how do we create this special place in an infill site? And we're trying to create little pocket parks and street fronting architecture, and definitely density is a huge play here. We're townhomes, we're going from 2-story townhomes at 15 DU an acre up to 3-story at 33 units an acre. And this is your motor court town. The benefit of this is it's getting 20 units an acre, but I'm getting 360 degrees of architecture, and that's fronting the street, and you're hiding the garages. One of the key things what we try to do when we're creating a plan or a community architecture is hide the garages and pronunciate the walkability and the people aspect of the community, and less on the driving aspect. And when you do drive, we've activated the community in a way that you are slowing down and waving at your neighbors. This is another 2-story townhome product at 23 DU an acre. Then we climb up to 3-story, which is at 19 DU an acre. 3-story at 27 units an acre with little paseo courts like a Melrose Place type of concept. This is actually at a mall site where we took that mall, that pedestrian street, and took it right into a community. We're seeing a lot of that. And then Graham touched on this, but this is a back-to-back town where we're able to yield up into the 33 DU an acre product type, and it helps people have housing that's attainable, that's purchasable, and then a mix of tandem garages and side-by-side garages, and 3 stories. The benefit of the 3-story townhome is that you're providing that great room that nobody else can provide at that density. You walk up to the 2nd story and you literally have 40-foot wide great room from your kitchen, dining, living, 40 feet, and a deck at the end. It's pretty remarkable. Right, I shouldn't say apartments, but as we go further density, this is a product that we designed in Calabasas, north of Los Angeles, in a very affluent area over by the Commons, where when you go past townhomes, we start to go up into the podium type structures. And this is a podium design, but at 33 an acre, if we can achieve that with townhomes, wood frame construction, we'll go there all day. And believe it, we've done wood frame podiums. There's not much cost savings there, but this is the result of, as California sees density climbing higher and higher, this is the product that we are trending towards. This is a built product in Calabasas, as I mentioned. This is a small infill site in Newport Beach, and we're starting to go, this is a 6-story over 2 stories of subterranean garage that we're doing in Newport. So this is where we are going as a society, but I see the rest of the nation going into this higher density single family and somewhat attached townhomes. But even single family, we're able to achieve such high densities. I don't know why you would go into townhomes at this rate. So the site conditions and how you plan for this type of small housing is you do the 0 lot lines or reciprocal easements, as someone had noted. You put in these backyards, rear yards. This way you can have dogs, you can have trash cans, your utilitarian efforts, and you get these pretty paseos that go down the street. Now we've started taking off the paseos and doing motor court fed. Even here where you get this grass mall and it leads to something special. But these are motor courts, and what these do is they help the streetscape. And so here you can see a master plan of this, or not a master plan, but a plan within a master plan. How you can get this awesome green mall area with all the houses spilling onto the mall, a centralized amenity. When you're compromising for smaller living, you gotta focus on your common areas and make them something special. And you can see here, this is a sequence of events from the mall to the amenity building to the pool, and then it spills out into the village green beyond. And then they're all interconnected with the street parking to slow down traffic, What this does is it just creates a place that you would want to be. And so there's the whole plan overlaid. Walkability, just total walkability. Your kids, you feel safe for them to walk to their friend's house. Planning in this way enhances the streetscape. You're taking the garage doors off the street and pushing architecture forward. What this does is people are also willing to compromise to live in a special place. I was talking to Mollie about this. This could be moving to Santa Barbara. I'm willing to sacrifice the 3-car garage if I can buy a house on the beach or close to the beach in Newport, or belonging to an Eichler neighborhood. There's, Joseph Eichler, he designed these little gold nugget neighborhoods throughout California, and I would sacrifice to live in those neighborhoods. And so the streetscape is so important. It crafts placemaking in such a way that people want to live there, and they're willing to sacrifice the livability of the 3-car garage. There's curb cuts everywhere. It's kind of dangerous streets. They're wide. There's no street parking. People are driving fast, but the benefit of designing in this way is really the streetscape and the overall neighborhood design. This is a project we designed in the Carolinas, and the focus was on the pedestrian and not on the vehicle. So just awesome streetscapes. This is a product that was designed where instead of going down a paseo to get to your front door, we went down the motor court. What this does allow is backyards. You can have a full-grown dog, and even the motor courts you can see are enhanced and done in a way that doesn't look so, track homey. It looks a little bit more fresh, or not even fresh. It looks more charming, like an old historic neighborhood. Again, the streetscape so important. So where has that brought us to today is the modern master plan. So how are we designing master plans in the future? You can see it here. Everything's about density, and there is single family detached homes here, but there's also duplexes here. These are the single family neighborhood and their streetscape. We're able to design it in a way where you can't look down alleys from the public street. We have wide sidewalks. We have 15 feet wide here. So you can be holding someone's hand, walking one way. Someone can ride by on their bike, and they're not interrupting your walk. You don't have to step into the grass. We're doing duplex units. These are inspired off of the small lot subdivision in Corona Del Mar, where we're doing a unit in the back and a unit in the front. And we're able to get 2,200 square feet in these units. It's pretty remarkable. And if you have a place, if you've created a destination, a place to be, these do sell well. Like, people just want to be there. They want to be in that community. And that helps them get there. On this community as well, we're closing up the corners with these units, these red units on the corners. This is a 4-story town, the blue, and on the right is a red unit that's 2-3 stories, but you can see that 45 wall flips over, and we close in the corner so you can't see down the alleys. 3-story product. This is in this modern master plan, just all the product that we've done here. 3-story towns, and then the flats. And the flats all have their own garages. There are tandem car garages, but a lot of times people are not using their tandem car garages. They're parking on the street and using them for ping pong ball and all kinds of fun stuff. And now we're even looking at this product to add 4th floors. This is the architecture of the streetscape. This is the townhomes. This was the smaller unit that traps the corner so you can't see into the alleys. Whoops, going backwards. This is the streetscape. This is, again, a very modern master plan with 4-story townhomes. Yeah, pretty awesome product. And then this is the single family product, an eclectic mix of very streamlined. This is what the product was previously. This is the 3-story product. They're pretty awesome streetscapes. And I'm going to dig into the ADU. It seems like in California, every time we look at a conventional lot, we're looking at ways to add an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit. So these are several studies. Oftentimes we'll look at people looking to buy land, and they'll say, okay, well, it's 100 lots. Well, can I make it 200 lots? Well, in California, you're allowed to put 3 units on one lot. So they'll, can it be 300 lots? And how can we do that on a typical 50 by 100? And there's a lot of land plans that have died, and we can buy them by putting, we can find ways to find more value out of the land by adding units, by doing these ADUs. And here's a couple examples of how to get to an ADU: creating a protected or a private outdoor space in between the front yard and the ADU. Putting the ADU in the backyard where you access it from the side yard. Here's a shared front with the ADU, and we can just tuck that. It's a separate door that goes through the porch that enters up into the ADU. It helps for multi-gen living. There's so many different ways you can use an ADU. You can rent it to a college student. This is a sketch we did to figure out how the ADU actually works. And we're all about architecture that doesn't look like it's not like it was built in a production way. It looks like it was built over time, or in a quaint, like, historic district. I asked our administrator at our office once, would you rather live in the brand new house or in the historic district? And she said historic district all day long. I thought that was interesting, but that's kind of how we design. This is a actual built product. And so our client bought a small infill site, and where we could, we stretched the lots out and we added these ADUs. You can see them on the left side and then on the right side. And then we had some conventional lots in the middle. This was the product. This was the product in the middle that did not have an ADU. This is the product that did have an ADU. So you can see the ADU in the back, in the house in the front. And a lot of times this is in the Silicon Valley. So we're entertaining values of like $3 million for houses like this, $2-3 million. And we're going back to more traditional designs in the architecture, where we are doing living rooms. We're bringing back the living rooms. We're bringing back those spaces that went away, like, I don't know, early 2000s. And then we're carving out spaces into the roof. So you might see clipped ceilings, and you might get areas that are unique and different, but it's still a brand new house. So you're getting all the brand new qualities. This is some imagery of the ADU and how it turned out. This is that backyard space, the ADU, sort of like a granny flat, I guess, staircase coming down to a pretty nice common area between the other house. Another shot of how that turned out with the ADU design. The streetscape, you can see the ADU tucked back in there. And we really haven't affected the streetscape. Even though we have driveways, we're able to still create that charm and aesthetic that makes you want to live there. Peekaboo shot of the ADU. There you go again. So this is, I think, a very successful touch on how it worked out for the ADU. And then again, this is inside the ADU. So this is the front door, and then we put a walk-in closet over here. And the reason we've done that and punched out this window is we've created a booth. I think I have a picture. Nope, I don't. A picture of that booth. But what we're doing is we're clipping the ceiling. So it looks like this community is been there forever, and it's going to be there forever, leading to a timeless quality of the design. But you can also see in the ADUs that, it's pretty minimal, but it's enough if you're a college student, if you want to live within a nice neighborhood to get into that school you want your kids into. I see it all the time where we live, but this is the ADU in the back and the architecture in the front, big front porches, engaging that streetscape, activating conversations between dog walkers and people that live there. This is the door from the main house to the ADU, top zone. There's that booth, the bed, it's pretty compact. Again, the architecture at the streetscape, more streetscape. This is the streetscape of the community, an eclectic mix. And we kind of went very contemporary, and I think I took you there in this presentation, and we've kind of calmed ourselves down and gone back to traditional architecture. I think that kind of birthed out of the gram and everyone posting on the gram the quality of their home, and we've kind of come back to that charming aesthetic. So that is what I have.
That is so cute.
Any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or Molly, and happy to answer them. I flew through that presentation. I'm sorry, it's because I'm late, and I think this webinar went a little long, so sorry about that, Molly.
No, you're like perfectly on time. So amazing. Let me hit some highlights here too. So all three architects again just brought their absolute triple A game. And as did Garrett. So the big sort of takeaways for me, I love the start with let your alleys kind of live like jewelry. You know, they cost a little bit more, consumers will pay a little bit less. But when you think about the translation to the edges and the entries and how it makes the community feel, you'll get a premium throughout the entire master plan or the place that you're planning by planning that way. Side yard setbacks at the 21 to the acre SFD and duplex product. Garrett, those are like 3 and 3, right? On the side yard setbacks? On the roads?
Yeah, we get pretty tight. It actually helps with the proportions, and because we're single family or residential code, we can go 3 to 3 or 6 foot between buildings. But the proportions of the setback also play into the streetscape architecture. So we're able to we look at a lot of the proportions.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that those are not 5 and 5, but that's intentional because aesthetically it looks better, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. And then the zero lot
Absolutely.
obviously can really help with yard space. Try to connect it to non-livable walls like the garage, but I loved the use of those spaces. The recessed garage, I mean, look how clever this street scene is. These are conventionally loaded. Now you need more depth for this, but having the ADU helps you with the density by giving that extra depth. So it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And then things like Avant out there in Calabasas, I mean, the common areas, I mean, that's their backyard. So don't forget, it should live like a backyard. You should want to climb in and stay in those common area spaces. The other thing I loved is on the auto ports, and anything that the garage is married with the front door, be clever with those garage doors. The level of detail you guys have on your garage doors, whether it's the glass or just the character of that wood front door with the extra character, man, that really makes such a difference. And remember, you're getting paid for that. So if you're taking it to 14 or 15 to the acre, you know, that kind of cleverness. I mean, just look at the detail around the corner detail with the corbel. That's just beautiful. And that
So something, if
you'll get paid for it.
if you want to do, if you ever sorry, Molly, but if you ever, I forgot to mention, if you ever wanted to entertain the back-to-back towns, because it gets such great density and you're having a tough time wrapping your head around the aesthetics of it, everyone do themselves a favor and Google London Mews. They did it in London. It's a historic neighborhood and people would die to live there because it's so beautiful in these. It's a true muse where it's garage doors and they've activated that special space for just the homeowners that live there.
Well, it's amazing when you look at this picture where your eye is drawn to, despite the fact that you have, you know, some pipes and you've got the drain going there, and there's not even like a little plant there in that little planter, but this is so attractive and so charming because your eye goes to that garage door details, the special thing you did around the edges. Obviously the marriage of detached and duplex, I think when you're doing densities at 22 to the acre, to sort of mix that up, boy, it sure makes a difference and it's terrific. Even the marriage where you did 2 and 3 story really made a difference. Obviously ADUs, it's simple. It can double or triple your density. And in markets like California and Seattle, where they're really pushing for that, there's great opportunity there. I love, once again, the recessed garage, making conventional look like it's alley loaded, so you still have really attractive street scenes. And then last but not least, you know, the character inside and out, that small little nook area that you created in the granny flat. I mean, that could be the office. I mean, you already added another space there that you're going to get paid for. And that really could be the office for an ADU. You could do that in a conventional home. All those things, really small but important little details that add value back to your bottom line. So with that, I just have a couple of things. I'm gonna take this back over. If you go to zondahome.com, you'll actually see we've got Future Place coming in October. We also have Elevate. If you're doing a lot of work in the high rise category, please join us. We do want to get your feedback. If you want to reach out to any one of these architects, I wanted to make sure just to do a quick pause here. So you have their names, you have their firms, please reach out to them. Again, 3 of the smartest, most talented people in our industry. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. I really appreciate it. And thank you for Stephen, Graham, and Garrett for joining us as well.